Okay, so just wanted to mention the client that I had a little while ago. He came to me, he's about 5 stone overweight, and his life was in a bit of turmoil. He'd had a bad injury which had gone wrong, had surgery. He was divorced, bringing up 2 kids, and had like a proper full-time job. And the issue that he had was that he wasn't eating at all during the day. No breakfast, lunch. And then he was just saving it all up and having about 6 pork chops in the evening and a load of other shit, for want of a better word.
Yeah.
And when we were talking before, you said that was a bit like
intermittent fasting.
Yeah.
So the thing with that approach is, it's very like what you teach people to do with intermittent fasting. So not eat all day and then eat the majority of calories at night. Some people also call it carb backloading.
Yeah.
But what you see time and time again, I mean, I can't count how many clients I saw on Harley Street doing exactly the same thing, very over fat. There's recent studies showing it actually, if you do that, it leads to greater degree of insulin resistant and increased cardiovascular risk factors.
Right.
And the reason for that is that stuff I was talking about before, this is the metabolic flexibility.
Yeah.
So if someone's metabolically inflexible and they're used to just burning sugar and not using their fat as a source of fuel, if they go long periods without eating, the tendency is they can break down muscle tissue just as quickly as they're using fat.
Yeah.
And then when they overeat, they're much more likely to store that excess calories as fat.
Mm-hmm.
And the best thing to do with someone like that is to shift them to stabilise their blood glucose first.
Yeah.
And get them,
because otherwise his blood glucose is going to be low all day, isn't it? Because he's not eating.
Yeah, it's going to be low all day, and he's probably put himself in a state of insulin resistance.
Well, and he was feeling tired, during the day, and all the typical things that you'd expect,
and not exercising.
No.
Basically, intermittent fasting really only works if you include exercise in as part of the program.
Yeah.
So what did you do?
Well, so I said to him, I want you to eat regularly throughout the course of the day. Now, our typical approach would be start off with some, for his size, I suggested like 3 scrambled eggs and, some spinach, mushrooms, maybe some extra chicken as well. Get him off to a, good start. And then lunchtime, a complex type of salad, that we talk about. And then, then in the afternoon, typical thing, maybe some soup, you could make some soup up and all like this. So I propositioned all this to him, and it was obvious from the look of his face that that wasn't happening at all. That was too big a leap for him to make in one go. So that it wasn't going to be it just wasn't going to happen, wasn't going to work for him. So my view was it was more important for him to lose the weight, to start getting some success on that side of things first, and then try and transition him into eating some foods as well during the course of the day. So what I ended up doing with him was putting him on like bars and shakes as a thing during the day, and then still have his meal at the end of the night. But obviously he's going to have a lot less of that,
more balance.
Yeah, so he's going to have a bit more balance. So I'd never really felt comfortable doing that type of approach because I'd always wanted people to eat food. But I think there's a massive population out there of people who are struggling either because their cooking skills aren't very good, they don't know what to eat, or they've just got bad habits. You might be city workers who are so stressed and busy during the day they're not really finding time to eat. There's a whole raft of people out there who could benefit from from that type of approach.
I agree. I think that's offering him a solutions-based approach.
Yeah.
And I think what you've done there is you've prioritised his largest health risk, which is him being 5 stone overweight.
Yeah.
And then you've offered him an avenue where he can normalise that first, whilst you teach him the other skills that he needs to learn. Food first approach, which is.
Well, it's working because he's lost, and this is a thing which came back to me, is he's lost 2.5 stone, in a period of 3 months. So, I'm glad I went against some of my principles to try that approach with him, because it's doing him good, in the short term and obviously over the longer term as well.
I think that you can't have anything against any diet as long as you're not doing any harm and you've offered someone a solution in order they get the results, then you've got to do what the client needs most from a health perspective,
rather than necessarily on what we think is right for for us and our principles sometimes.
And it, like you say, it'd be wonderful if you could cook a meal from scratch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but that it isn't always practically probable or something.
You've got to get into that place where you can organise your life, as much as you can. When you're, in his case, he was, working a full-time job. He's got 2 teenage boys, which he's got to get to football practice, 4 nights a week because they're on different nights. Single parent, quite hard to factor in getting your Tupperware out and batching up a load of meals.
Yeah.
But now he's on that path, feeling a little bit better. Hopefully we'll be able to get him to start doing more of that.